I have another viewer request video, and this is in response to the earlier video about social isolation from the perspective of people in ASD. And now, the response to that comment is basically this. And I will leave the screen up so that you can observe it. But what I want to impart for this specific video is that I want to offer you a kind of meditation. Now, that may sound weird, right? But based on my knowledge, in the early days of Buddhism, when Buddha was around, meditation was sort of prescribed as a kind of a medicine for different ailments, right? So when we think of meditation, the prominent form of meditation that comes into mind is sitting and then just like contemplating and just thinking, right? Well, actually meditation in that form is called apasana, and it's I think it's apasana, but basically it's focusing on the breath, and it's bringing your willpower and just connecting to the sensation of air leaving and entering your nostril, and basically let any other thoughts and sensations just fleet over your mind and just observe them, but come back to the breath whenever you find yourself distracted. That's one form of meditation. And this is prescribed to people who have chaotic minds. Basically, so many thoughts are happening all at once and nothing really makes sense. And there's a lot of like, oh, what if this, what if that, what if this, what if that, if this, blah, 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 blah. And so, to calm the noisy mind, that specific form of meditation was brought upon. And now, then what are different types of meditation? Another form was contemplating on the cause and effect. And in Korean, this is called 인연관. And this is prescribed to people who are feeling really angry about their stuff. And people who are really focused on their self and the ego. And now, this specific form of meditation is specifically contemplating upon the cause and effect of everything. For example, I get a hate comment on YouTube, and let me just bring that up here. So, MadMex123 says, Mexico isn't in South America, you ignorant bozo. Mexico is in North America. And now, if ego was in the driver's seat, then I would be very angry, and I would react to this in an emotional way. But contemplative meditation based on cause and effect would look at it from a different perspective. Okay, so why would this person write something like this? And we keep following the different types of things. Okay, so in this video, I must have said something like Mexico is in South America. And now, based on my knowledge, my ignorance, I maybe believe that, oh, I legitimately thought that Mexico was part of South America. And now, from this person's perspective, because they clearly have the username MadMex, which implies that they could be very much Mexican or care a lot about being Mexican. And to them, of course, this warrants this kind of reaction, calling someone ignorant bozo, because, for example, I'm a Korean person. If someone was speaking about ignorantly about Korean culture, then what is my impulse? What is my knee-jerk reaction to this? I would try to defend Koreans, right? And so this becomes it goes from a personal attack to me to like, oh, everything happens because of reasons. Like, I had the option to not make this video. I had the option to be more informed about the things that I say. But then, you know what? I didn't. I made the video with my ignorance. So good. What can I do? I don't take it personally. And I can say, hey, sorry for my ignorance. But thank you for your feedback. Now, thanks to this, now I know Mexico is formerly North America. Cool. I learned something. So that is the contemplation of cause and effect, and it is prescribed for the ego-driven mind. And now, that is important for this case too, but for this specifically, I want to offer a different kind of meditation, which is typically prescribed to people who care so much about cleanliness and dirtiness, or OCD. Like, there is in their mind the structure of right and wrong, pure and impure. These things are so rigid and it prevents them from accepting things. It prevents them from being happy. It makes people suffer. And so this kind of contemplation is called the contemplation on impurities. And it's a little bit extreme in its tradition. It is actually looking at corpses. So back in Buddha's time, this was easier to do because in India, the culture is to dispose of corpses as soon as possible because reincarnation is gonna happen. And now, but like disposal, like when you're near the Ganges River, it's easy. But back then, people just kind of wrapped around the corpses with like a cloth and then just threw it away. And now, the people who care so much about the purity, impurity, clean, not clean, good, not good, Buddha would tell them to look at the corpse and witness its decay. At first, it still resembles a human being, the flesh and bones and muscles and everything. And then as time goes on, it becomes disgusting, starts to become disgusting, right? Like bugs start coming in, and then like the flesh starts rotting, and then pus starts being formed, and then like gases start to excavate, and then boom, bunch of cavities. And then bugs come in, animals come in, and then everything is sort of consumed. And now, after that phase, as you slowly observe it, it becomes bones, and then after a while, it just becomes sort of like mixed with nature, and then in the end, it gets decomposed back into nature. So, the point of this kind of contemplation is to recognize that through contemplative observation, this is life. Like everything is just interconnected and just undergoes changes. And so my body that looks so precious and clean to me, when I'm dead, it's gonna undergo the same thing regardless of whether I like it or not. And when I was born, I feel I'm so clean and like I'm so pure, but I was born in the same blood and the, amniotic fluid and everything from my mother. And there was a lot of, dirtiness that incurred, right? From the pure speaking mind. So when you go to Tibet or other Theravada kind of practicing regions in Asia, you'll see that some corpses are preserved so that the monks who practice can continue participating in this specific form of contemplation on impurity. Now, I'm not asking you to do this. I'm asking you to contemplate on the parts that you don't find like pure or like acceptable to you. Now, I do this with bugs because I have a big fear of roaches and bugs in general. So, whenever I see a dead bug because of my exterminator spraying, I make it a point to really observe the bug. And sometimes I see, ants carrying these really big cockroaches and like, how the cockroaches, they look so disgusting and impure, but like when the California sun dries the corpse up and all the moisture evaporates, it just becomes this like really just a bunch of chitin like proteins. And then the form becomes indistinguishable. And all that happened is just moisture and time. And so the more I do this, the more I get to associate the living form of a cockroach from like the chitin collection. And it's just a part of life. To me, it can be seen as a disgusting cockroach, but to ants, it becomes a food source. And to the greater ecosystem, it's just part, and it gives me a perspective beyond just like, ew, cockroach, what the fuck. So, responding to this comment, you can't put up with myself, let alone with other person. I don't know how people can be in relationship. I can't be around family for long periods of time, and that's part of being in the ASD, right? And you know what? That's okay. But now, women want so much affection, and I hate kissing to and the feeling of cuddling. But the thing is, women want so much affection is a broad generalization, right? That's like me saying all autistic people are smart, or like I don't know, something worse, but I don't want to say it. Women, not all women want so much affection. You know that because women are on the ASD as well, right? So there are women who feel exactly the kind of discomfort when it comes to intimacy as well. I forced myself to get married because of the pressure of society making you feel like you, yeah. And that, again, that's just how society works, right? Societal pressure defines the norm, and there's a pros and cons of abiding by the norm and not abiding the norm. But now you have experienced it once, and you can hardly leave your room because nothing good comes out of it. Like nothing good, again, is a by dichotomy, right? Being abused mentally, physically, and sexually makes you afraid of people, and that I completely understand, and that also requires, that requires your empathy and your compassionate witnessing, which I cover a lot in my book, The Shame Formula. Even though I'm good at wrestling and grappling, I'm scared of people. It sucks having mental blocks that won't that you put your guard down ever. And so yeah, so these defenses, like I talked about this with another person recently, but the mental defenses ultimately come from your perception, right? So if you are not aware that a person is nearby, the body doesn't react to it. But as soon as you find that the person is there, the guard goes up, right? So this is not an absolute like metaphysical thing where it goes beyond your perception. So for example, I could be in a really hot climate and now and I might be kind of like walking around and I'm not thinking that my body temperature is rising. I'm not aware of it, but it responds to the climate and I may start sweating, right? And I'm like, "Oh, whoa, I'm sweating a lot." And this is kind of like beyond your perception. But these types of things ultimately react from perception, which means because brains, regardless of the type of brain you have, because brains have plasticity, you can have a different relationship with it. And even the video that you mentioned here specifically mentioned that it's a bias, which means it is a construct from the mind. And now that why that's important is it can work with plasticity. You can change it. But I'm prefacing that with, of course, given ASD, given societal norms, we have to accept and understand that going against the current, whether it be neurotypical versus neurodivergent, or like if you're in Korea being a foreigner, because Korea is a homogeneous society, when you're a foreigner, you're a minority versus the majority. Going against the general trend of or the thesis in German philosophy terms is going to be hard. So you have the choice of just accepting that, hey, this is how I am, and yep, life is just going to be like this. But you know what? I fully accept it because I decided to live authentically. That's one way of doing it, and the other way of doing it is like, you know what? I accept that this is going to be hard and challenging simply because of the fact that challenging the norm is always hard. But I am committing to change. I am committing to my neuroplasticity. That's a commitment you can make, and when you commit to that, you can specifically train your neuroplasticity in order to change your relationship with these biases. So it ended up being kind of a long video, but the gist of what I'm saying is number one, contemplative meditation, specifically around what you find pure and impure, can really help you with this. Number two, when you have a lot of abuse that still remains in your psyche, you need a lot of compassionate witnessing, especially from yourself. And number three, you can choose to commit to neuroplasticity or not, but all I'm asking you to do is just commit to direction you want to head in life, and that's good. Then you don't need to hang in the middle anymore. Hope this helps, and I'll see you in the next video.